remember the declaration that was made in Dar es Salaam last year in terms of human capital development. We have to safeguard our human capital development because that is the promise for leadership in future. Future institutions will be led by people with strong credibility. Notice that where institutions have failed, markets fail. Are we together?
Kenyan example of that.
Kenyan example are willing. See coffee, what has happened? See sugar bells, what is happening?
Cotton.
By the way, and I would like you to check, if you go to those regions where markets have failed, coffee, pyrethrum, sisal, sugar, if you go to those areas, you find that poverty has really been quite devastating.
Very well, and we know,
but I wanted to summarize to show why the civil society becomes interesting, because they're observing this. Countries in Africa want to reverse this. How do we reverse this? We have all to come up with a collective action. Sorry.
I don't want to keep you here for long because I know you're running a few things here and there to ensure that all the loose ends are well tied. But I still want to find out from you, I mean, out of these IDA21 heads of state, we expected to come up with a Nairobi declaration.
Yes.
How are we going to ensure that the aspirations of Nairobi declaration are captured in the replacement meeting in December in Washington?
The most important, this is now, we have a champion. His Excellency President William Ruto accepted to be a champion of IDA21. The champion, being a champion means we are now going to state the context of the issues, and then after that, you hit the ground running. Because essentially the ministers have provided their communique. The champion is now going to provide all the details. Then it means that from today, everybody now starts working. There is a roadmap to all that. So the most important thing, as you started by asking why we have even brought the civil society, is because now we are starting that collective action, led by the champion. And the champion will define the parameters. First of all, is what are the priorities in Africa? Second, what are the steps? So we are going to move in those steps so that the communication will be clear and the context in African setting will be clear. We'll go to other developing regions. The other developing regions will look at this is going to be shared across. You will find that priorities that these developing countries are facing, would like to implement their priorities, is going to be the driving force.
Very good.
Which means that this is like a collective action, but we know our priorities. If we know our priorities, we know how we prioritize those to actually create the momentum and the change we want. And then the other thing is that, of course, there are some people, that's why I went back to institutions. It is not just resources. It is also the art of reorganizing our institutions. Sorry.
You see, this meeting is coming at a time when there has been growing calls to reform the global financial system. And our president has been at the forefront, of saying it is high time we looked at the global financial systems and amend where we need to. These negotiations or these talks happening here, is this part of efforts to reform the global financial system?
Yes, indeed. What we are really saying is that the World Bank has come up with a triple B kind of wording. We want a better, bolder bank, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, one of the issues in terms of the global financial architecture is that do these countries, do these multilateral development institutions have the capacity? Most of their capacity was devoured by the COVID-19. So essentially what we are really saying is that also providing IDA resources is also providing capacity for the World Bank. So most of these institutions did not fail. It is the resources, the capacity that they were looking for capacity. The second thing is that they have the capacity to use their AAA rating to leverage the resources. The World Bank is leveraging the resources by a factor of 3.6%, 3.6 times. So essentially, we are now saying IDA replenishment provides the World Bank with the capacity it needs to reform and to fit as a fit-for-purpose institution. I'm sure we are going to listen to the president of the World Bank Group today, and this is the emphasis I'm likely to hear from him, because essentially even ourselves, we said if we wanted multilateral development institutions to change, then it means we need the capacity for them to actually create that fit-for-purpose concept, but also have the ability to move with speed in terms of what they have. If they don't have capacity, they are also going to have difficulties in terms of fulfilling their mandate.
As I let you go, Buenos Aires, I mean, Kenya has been a major recipient of IDA assistance, you know, for many years. And when you look at, in terms of beneficiaries, we are always among the top 10.
Yes.
What would you say has been the biggest impact of IDA assistance to Kenya to date?
One, it's actually the development agenda. And the development agenda is a whole set of so many things. But the most important thing, look at, for example, the DPO, Development Policy Operations. They have been significant in terms of drivers. They provide support in terms of projects. They provide assistance in terms of policy and programs. You can see when you combine programs, policies, and then projects, or even financing projects, it's a whole combination of wherever you start, whether you want to start with policy, programs, and projects, financing is a very, very important component. It means that it leverages the resources that you could use for development purposes. Look at how we have been hampered by, for example, the COVID-19.
Yeah.
What was the intervention? Look at how we have been hampered by the devastating consequences of the drought. We need to come up with better policies, a better policy environment, but also give us the catalyst to move in that direction. That is why we have beneficiaries of IDA. We have been beneficiaries of IDA, but those resources have been put in areas where we felt we needed support. But now we are moving into a different direction. They say we are now want to prioritize what we want to change, and we want to get there.
Very good.
Things
I have to let you go.
Yeah,
I know the presidents are almost getting here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best.
Okay, thank you.
Asante sana. Well, we've been talking to the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and, of course, National Planning. This is Professor Njuguna Ndomo giving us an idea of what to expect today, where Heads of State Summit is taking place here, bringing on board more than 10 African heads of state. This is the International Development Assistance 21 conference, which is taking place here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. President William Ruto is hosting African heads of state, as well as the World Bank President Ajay Banga. And I can hear the national anthem being played in the background, which means that probably the president is already here. And so the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is the official broadcaster of this critical event, and of course we'll be giving you a blow-by-blow account of what is happening here, and of course giving you better analysis of the issues being discussed here. We are looking out for the issuing of the Nairobi Declaration, which is a document that is going to say what exactly has Africa agreed on how to reform IDA, and of course how to work around the replenishment of IDA resources. My name is O'Brien Kim, and I'm taking you back to Broadcasting House, and of course we'll keep on talking to various individuals who are attending this meeting. I'm planning to talk to the South African Minister of Finance. This is Enoch Godongwana. He's already here. He'll be giving me an idea of what South Africa is doing to reform the institution of IDA, bearing in mind that South Africa has been a major beneficiary of IDA, and of course it has gone ahead, to improve their financial status, as well as improve their economic status as well. So those are some of the issues that are going to be discussed here, and of course many more. So we'll keep you posted on what's happening here, and of course keeping an eye on other things. I told you about the Nairobi Declaration. That is a critical document that we need to keep our eyes on, just to get an idea of what African countries are planning to do and what is their say. Yeah, so he's on the set. This is none other than South African Minister of Finance, Enoch Godogwada. Did I get it right?
You got it right.
Thank you very much indeed. First of all, I must appreciate, I love this. This is very wonderful.
That's why I asked you, want me with it or without it?
It's okay. It's fine. So first of all, I want to hear from you. You represent the Republic of South Africa in this meeting, South Africa being one of the largest economies in Africa. What are you expecting out of this meeting?
First and foremost, let's just contextualize what the meeting is about. For more than 4 or 5 decades, the World Bank created an institute called International Development Agency, whose focus is to assist particularly low-income countries with concessional financing. So it has been existent for years.
For 60 years, actually.
Yeah, it's being replenished. Being replenished, it has got all its phases of replenishment. There's another phase for replenishment now. President Ruto is asked to be the champion of mobilizing that replenishment. That's why we're here today. It's the launch of that championship of replenishment.
Yesterday, you sat down as ministers of finance from Africa in order for you to develop what is going to be referred to as the Nairobi Declaration on the aspirations of the continent. Would you give us an idea of some of the issues that you raised and the way forward?
Look, the critical issue is how do we strengthen how do we mobilize more resources from and make sure we can, given the challenges we're facing, the critical issue is how do we mobilize those resources. In addition to that, how do we, as Africa, coordinate our voice and speak with one voice on this matter? So critically, those are the messages that are emerging.
That you discussed yesterday.
Yeah.
As South Africa, I mean, you have been a major beneficiary of IDA assistance, throughout the years. And you have somehow graduated into almost becoming a donor. What lessons is South Africa offering to African countries on how, to transition?
We have been a donor since 1975. We've never been a beneficiary.
Precisely.
We've never been a beneficiary, so we've not graduated at all. We've been a donor, so we've never been a beneficiary. But let me just say, to us, when we're not classifying only ourselves as a donor, we're also classifying us as proudly Africans who must make sure that the African economies develop. But by the way, it's mutual beneficial. If these countries, if you look at our trade with Kenya now and look at our trade with other countries, these relations are mutually beneficial. A growth in each of these economies benefit all of us.
There has been a clarion call by different voices that it is high time that we really looked at the global financial architecture and look at areas on how we can reform these institutions. Do you think this is part of that process?
Yes, it is part of that process. But a key debate is how the major institutions, including the Bretton Woods institutions, are structured. That's the first set of issues, is how to make sure that the financing mechanism of those institutions talk to the development needs of our nations. So that's the major, for me, the financial architecture to make sense, we've got to restructure. First, we're facing climate change, we're facing adaptation, we're facing mitigation. 600 million people on the African continent do not have electricity. That on its own is an important challenge.
That is 50% of the population.
Yeah. So we need to say how even electrifying these things is a growth enhancing transformation and funding. By the way, it does not necessarily mean that it can be financed via that. We've proved in South Africa that you can bring independent power producers who you simply buy electricity from them. So the investment can be done by the private sector.
South Africa is a member and a founding member of the BRICS.
Yeah.
And we have seen a situation whereby the BRICS is now expanding to include more countries. And, you know, to some quarters, there is an argument that BRICS is likely to be the future of the future model of lending to developing countries. Are there lessons that South Africa can take from BRICS to IDA?
I will give an example. One of the things we do in BRICS, we created the National Development Bank, which is, some people call it BRICS Bank. One of the key things we've emphasized in the BRICS Bank is that they must try and use local markets and lend in local currencies. An example, they've just raised some money in the South African markets and provided a loan of about 1.5 billion rand in South African rands, which protects us against currency fluctuations.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is high time that, you know, part of reforming the global financial architecture, that we allowed countries to borrow in their own currency.
Precisely, because that protects yourself against currency fluctuations. We've made it as a standard in South Africa. We'll never have our ratio, the maximum is 85-15. In other words, our borrowings that are denominated in foreign currency cannot exceed 15%.
15%.
1.5.
So 85% of your loans
Yeah.
is rand denominated.
It's rand denominated.
How can this happen without creating a narrative of de-dollarization?
It's not a narrative of dollarization. Let me just tell you this thing. I mean, there are a couple of things we need to despair. If you look in the SACO region, Botswana, and including now, you can include Zimbabwe, these countries mostly trade amongst themselves in their own currency, including the rand. The rand is the most traded, is the most used currency in
Southern Africa.
In Southern Africa. It's not the dollar. There's a myth which is coming up that even BRICS is talking about de-dollarization. You're not going to find a single document of BRICS talking about de-dollarization. We're talking about local currencies.
Local currencies.
Local currencies.
And when you look at the East African community, I mean, which is one of the most integrated regional development institutions in Africa, are there lessons that we can learn from the Southern African countries when it comes to trading in their local currencies? Because when you look at the region, I mean, we still trade a lot in foreign currencies.
Yeah, I think that's where the danger is. There's no reason that people in Tanzania or Uganda can't use a Kenyan shilling. There's no reason in South Africa, I mean, there's no reason for that. Using their own currencies, trading amongst themselves. If you pay the products you import from Tanzania, you can pay them in their currency, or you can pay them in Kenyan shillings. There's no reason why you can't do that.
It's going to happen. So at the end of the day, once you know, the dust is settled, what should we look forward for after this meeting?
After this meeting, let me just say, first today. Today, the heads of state will adopt a declaration, which would have been recommended by the ministers of finance, because we've been working with IDA, even in the World Bank and so on. So as people who have been involved in this thing, we've crafted a recommendation to our heads of state. So the heads of state will adopt that declaration. Beyond that, what is going to be necessary is how do we, all of us, hit the ground, mobilizing resources to ensure that IDA has got better resources and sufficient resources to attend to the development challenges of our nations.
Very good. Enoch Gondogwana, thank you very much indeed for joining us
Thank
on
you.
KBC Channel 1, and of course for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you around.
So,
Yes, very good. I mean, Enoch Godogwana is the Minister for Finance in the Republic of South Africa, joining us here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where the IDA21 is currently underway. I can confirm that President William Ruto, among other presidents from the African continent, they're already here, as well as the World Bank President Ajay Banga. And of course, we shall be getting in and listening to what is exactly happening, plus more. We're keeping an eye on what's happening here, and of course, we'll be giving you up-to-date updates, and of course, giving you more analysis. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Back to your broadcasting house.